When the worst flood in Colorado's history hit the small mountain town of Riverside, rescue teams expected to find devastation, but they never expected to find a German Shepherd clinging to life on a tiny island of debris. In the middle of raging floodwaters for 4 days, Rex had survived alone against impossible odds. But what stunned rescuers wasn't just his survival. It was his unwavering determination to protect a mysterious backpack, even when it meant risking his own life. What was inside that backpack was so important that Rex chose potential death over letting it go. This is a story that will change everything you think you know about loyalty, purpose, and the incredible bonds that drive us to keep fighting when all hope seems lost. The early spring snow melt in the Colorado Rockies had been unusually rapid, but nobody in the quiet town of Riverside expected what happened on that fateful Tuesday morning in March. Dr. Emily Chen, a 34-year-old pediatric specialist at Denver Children's Hospital, was making her weekly trip to the remote mountain clinic when the emergency radio crackled to life with urgent flood warnings. All residents in the Riverside Valley must evacuate immediately. Dam overflow imminent. This is not a drill. Emily's heart raced as she looked out at the seemingly peaceful creek that ran alongside the mountain road. Her German Shepherd Rex sat alert in the passenger seat, a specially designed medical backpack secured to his harness. Rex was no ordinary dog. He was a trained medical assistance dog certified to carry emergency medications to remote locations where helicopters couldn't land. The backpack contained life-saving insulin and emergency supplies for 8-year-old Tommy Martinez, a diabetic child living in an isolated cabin with his grandfather Miguel 15 miles up the mountain. They had been snowed in for weeks and Tommy's medication was running critically low. "We have to reach them," Rex, Emily murmured, checking her GPS. "Tommy's counting on us." But as they rounded the next bend, Emily gasped in horror. The peaceful creek had transformed into a raging torrent, brown water cascading down the mountainside. With terrifying force, a wall of debris, trees, boulders, and pieces of destroyed buildings was racing toward them faster than any car could outrun. Emily slammed on the brakes and threw the car into reverse, but it was too late. The flood surge hit her vehicle like a freight train, spinning it off the road and into the turn-earning waters. In the chaos of tumbling metal and rushing water, Emily managed to release Rex's safety harness, shouting over the roar, "Find Tommy, protect the medicine!" Rex barked once a sound of understanding and determination. Before the car was swept away, Emily's last sight was of Rex swimming powerfully toward the higher ground, the medical backpack still secured to his harness, fighting against the current with every ounce of strength he possessed. The flood continued its rampage through Riverside, destroying everything in its path. Houses, businesses, and lives were swept away in minutes. Emergency services were overwhelmed, roads were impassable, and communication towers were down in the chaos. Nobody noticed one German Shepherd dog swimming deprivately toward a small island of debris that had formed around a massive fallen oak tree. Rex pulled himself onto the tiny patch of safety water streaming from his thick coat. He was exhausted, disoriented, and alone. But the backpack was still there, still dry in its waterproof casing. He shook himself off and looked around at his new reality. A piece of land no bigger than a bedroom, surrounded by rushing floodwater that showed no signs of receding. The medical supplies were safe, but Rex was trapped. And somewhere up the mountain, a little boy named Tommy was waiting for medicine that might never come. As the first night fell over the flood zone, Rex curled up around the backpack, protecting it with his body ready to face whatever came next. He had a mission to complete, and nothing, not hunger, not cold, not even death would make him abandon it. Day 2 of the flood found Rex weak and hungry, but still vigilant. The small island of debris had become his world, a precarious sanctuary surrounded by waters that seemed to mock his predicament. The oak tree that anchored his refuge groaned ominously with each surge, its massive root system the only thing preventing his tiny haven from being swept downstream. Rex had found a small depression near the base of the tree, where rainwater collected, providing him with fresh drinking water. But food was non-existent, and his stomach cramped with hunger several times during the night. Pieces of debris floating past had carried the scent of food, a waterlogged sandwich spoiled, groceries from someone's kitchen, but Rex never left his post. The backpack remained his priority, The medical supplies were secured in a waterproof case designed to withstand extreme conditions, but Rex didn't know that all he understood was Dr. Chen's final command. Protect the medicine his training had ingrained in him, the critical importance of his cargo. Those vials and syringes weren't just medical supplies, they were someone's lifeline. As the sun climbed higher on the second day, Rex heard something that made his ears perk up. The distant sound of helicopter rotors. He stood barking frantically and wagging his tail, hope surging through his exhausted body. The helicopter passed overhead, circling the flood zone, but from their altitude, Rex appeared to be just another piece of debris on a tiny island in an endless sea of brown water. By the third day, Rex's condition was deteriorating rapidly. He had lost significant weight. His usually glossy coat was matted and dull, and his movements had become sluggish, the constant stress of maintaining his balance on the unstable island, while protecting the backpack was taking its toll. Several times, powerful surges had nearly knocked him into the water, but he had managed to brace himself against the tree. The backpack clutched tightly in his jaws during the worst moments when exhaustion threatened to overcome him. Rex would rest his head on the backpack and remember his training. Dr. Chen's voice echoed in his memory. Rex, you're not just carrying medicine, you're carrying hope. Some little boy or girl is counting on you. Other debris continued to float past his island prison. He saw parts of houses, furniture, and heartbreakingly other animals that hadn't been as fortunate. A small dog's collar floated by, and Rex weighed softly, understanding the tragedy that surrounded him, but he never moved from his position protecting the backpack. On the third night, the water level began to drop slightly, revealing more of the trier's massive trunk. Rex managed to climb higher, finding a more stable position, wedged between two large branches. The backpack was still secure, its waterproof casing intact. But Rex's strength was fading fast as dawn broke on the fourth day. Rex's eyes were sunken, his breathing shallow. He had given everything to protect his precious cargo, and his body was paying the price. But in the distance, he could hear something new. The puttering of a rescue boat engine growing steadily louder. Captain Sarah Williams of Colorado Search and Rescue was piloting her inflatable boat through the debris field when her partner Tom Rodriguez pointed ahead there on that island. Is that a dog? Through her binoculars, Sarah could see a German Shepherd lying motionless next to what appeared to be some kind of pack or bag. The dog looked in terrible condition, but as their boat approached, his head lifted weakly and his tail managed a feeble wag. We've got a survivor, Sarah called into her radio, her voice tight with emotion after 4 days of pulling bodies from the water. Finding life was a miracle she desperately needed. But as they drew closer, they realized that this rescue would be unlike any other they had ever attempted. Captain Sarah Williams cut the engine as their rescue boat drifted toward Rex's tiny island refuge through 4 days of flood response. She had seen the worst of natural disasters, but the sight of the emaciated German Shepherd clinging to life on his debris island stirred something deep in her experienced heart. Easy there, Boy Sarah called softly as they approached. We're here to help. Rex lifted his head with tremendous effort, his dark eyes focusing on the approaching rescuers. His tail attempted a weak wag, but he made no move to leave his position beside the mysterious backpack. Tom Rodriguez, Sarah's partner and a veteran of dozens of animal rescues, immediately noticed the dog's protective posture. He's guarding something, Tom observed, reaching into his rescue kit for a catch pole and emergency blanket. Poor guy looks like he hasn't eaten in days, but look how he's positioned himself over that pack. As their boat bumped gently against the debris island, Rex became more alert but also more defensive. He placed his body directly over the backpack, his weakened state making his protective instincts even more pronounced. When Tom reached toward him with a gentle hand, Rex growled softly, not in aggression but in warning. It's okay, buddy. Saraku, recognizing the signs of a dog with a job to do. What are you protecting there? Rex's behavior puzzled both rescuers. Most animals in distress would eagerly approach their rescuers, desperate for food and safety. But Rex seemed torn between his obvious need for help and his unwavering commitment to whatever was in that backpack. Tom tried a different approach, pulling out emergency dog treats from his kit. He tossed one gently toward Rex, who looked at it with obvious hunger, but didn't move to eat it. The treat landed just inches from his nose, and Rex's nostrils flared at the scent, but he remained steadfast in his protective position. "I've never seen anything like this," Tom muttered. "He's literally starving. But he won't leave that pack." Sarah tried to reach for the backpack to examine it, thinking that if she could move it to the boat, Rex might follow. But the moment her hand approached the pack, Rex summoned strength from somewhere deep within and gently but firmly took the strap in his teeth, pulling it closer to his body. "He's not going anywhere without it." Sarah realized, "Tom, we need to figure out what's in that pack. It might be the key to getting him to cooperate." The backpack was clearly designed for outdoor use with reflective strips and what appeared to be medical symbols on the sides. Tom managed to get close enough to read a small tag attached to the strap property of Denver Children's Hospital, Emergency Medical Transport. "It's medical supplies," Tom announced, the pieces starting to fall into place. "This isn't just any dog. He's a medical transport dog. Sarah, he's not protecting random gear. He's protecting someone's medicine." The revelation changed everything. This wasn't a case of a confused, traumatized animal clinging to familiar objects. Rex was a working dog with a mission, and despite 4 days of hell, starvation, and exhaustion, he was still trying to complete his assignment. "Rex, is that medicine for someone?" Sarah asked gently, using the name she could see embroidered on his collar. "Are you trying to deliver that medicine, boy?" At the word medicine, Rex's ears perked up noticeably, and he would softly a sound of both distress and confirmation. He looked toward the mountains, then back at the backpack. His meaning clear: someone was waiting for this delivery. Sarah made a command decision that went against standard rescue protocol. Instead of trying to separate Rex from the backpack, she would honor his mission. "Tom, help me get both of them into the boat. If this medicine is that important to him, it's that important to us too." Working carefully, they managed to create a makeshift stretcher that could accommodate both Rex and the precious cargo he'd protected with his life. As soon as Rex understood that the backpack would come with him, his resistance melted away. He allowed the rescuers to lift him gently, never releasing his protective hold on the medical supplies as their boat pulled away from the debris island. Rex lifted his head one more time to look toward the mountains. His mission wasn't complete yet, but for the first time in 4 days, hope flickered in his exhausted eyes. The medicine was safe, and they were moving in the right direction. At the emergency command center set up in Riverside's makeshift evacuation site, Rex's arrival caused an immediate stir among the medical personnel. Dr. Patricia Hoskins, the lead emergency veterinarian, rushed to examine the severely dehydrated and malnourished German Shepherd, who still refused to be separated from his mysterious medical backpack. "This dog is in critical condition," Dr. Hoskins announced as she worked to establish an IV line for Rex. "Ever dehydration, malnutrition, likely hypothermia. How he survived 4 days in those conditions is beyond me." But even as the medical team worked to stabilize Rex, he kept one paw firmly placed on the backpack, his eyes constantly checking to ensure it remained within his sight. Every time someone approached the pack, Rex would summon the energy to lift his head in warning, despite his weakened state. Captain Williams had radioed ahead about the medical transport gear, and now emergency coordinator Lisa Park was examining the bag more closely. The tags and markings were clear. This was official medical transport equipment from Denver Children's Hospital, designed for emergency deliveries to remote locations. "We need to contact Denver Children's Hospital immediately," Lisa announced. "This dog was on a mission when the flood hit, and someone might be dying while we're standing here." Within minutes, the command center had Dr. Michael Stevens, Chief of Pediatric Emergency Medicine at Denver Children's Hospital, on satellite phone. When Lisa explained the situation, there was a long pause before Dr. Stevens' voice cracked with emotion. "Oh my God, Rex and Dr. Emily Chen were en route to deliver emergency insulin to the Martinez family. 8-year-old Tommy Martinez is a type 1 diabetic, and they've been cut off by snow for weeks," his grandfather called. "Yesterday, Tommy's blood sugar levels were becoming dangerously unstable." The emergency command center fell silent as the magnitude of Rex's mission became clear. This wasn't just medical supplies, it was the difference between life and death for a little boy trapped in the mountains. "Where are the Martinezes located?" Lisa asked urgently. 15 miles up Mountain Road, 347. but the road was completely washed out by the flood. Dr. Stevens replied, "We've been trying to get a helicopter up there, but the weather's been too dangerous for flying. Tommy's been without his emergency medication for over 48 hours now." As if sensing the urgency in the humans' voices, Rex struggled to lift himself despite the IV lines and monitoring equipment. His eyes were fixed on the backpack, and he whed softly a sound that clearly communicated his desperate need to continue his mission. Dr. Hoskins shook her head firmly. "This dog can't go anywhere. He needs at least 24 hours of intensive care, maybe more. He's barely alive." But Rex's response was immediate and clear. He struggled to his feet, pulling against the medical equipment, his entire focus on the backpack when Dr. Hoskins tried to gently restrain him. Rex looked at her with eyes that seemed to plead, "A little boy is dying." "Wait," said Marcus Webb, a helicopter pilot who had been listening to the conversation. "The weather's been clearing. If I can get that medicine to the boy, the dog can rest and recover." Rex's reaction was instant and heartbreaking. As Marcus approached the backpack, Rex summoned strength from somewhere impossible and positioned himself between the pilot and the medical supplies. Despite his critical condition, despite the IV lines and his obvious exhaustion, Rex was making it clear he would not allow anyone else to complete his mission. "He doesn't trust us with it," Captain Williams observed, understanding dawning in her voice. "He's been protecting that medicine for 4 days in his mind. He's the only one who can be trusted to deliver it safely." Dr. Stevens' voice came through the radio with growing urgency. "We just lost contact with Miguel Martinez. Tommy's grandfather always checks in every 6 hours. If he's not responding, the implications hung heavy in the air. Somewhere up in those mountains, an 8-year-old boy was in diabetic crisis, and the dog who carried his salvation was too weak to travel, but too determined to let anyone else help." Rex looked around the circle of humans, his intelligent eyes seeming to weigh his options. Then with tremendous effort, he picked up the backpack strap in his teeth and took a single shaky step toward the door. The message was unmistakable. Tommy Martinez was waiting, and Rex intended to complete his mission. Even if it killed him, the emergency command center erupted in urgent discussion as medical personnel, rescue coordinators, and volunteers debated the impossible situation. Rex lay on the examination table, still clutching the medical backpack. His breathing shallow, but his resolve unwavering. Every few minutes, he would lift his head and look toward the mountains, as if he could sense 8-year-old Tommy Martinez's deteriorating condition 15 miles away. Dr. Patricia Hoskins pulled Captain Williams aside, her voice heavy with professional concern. "Sarah, I need you to understand something. This dog is in kidney failure. His body temperature is dangerously low, and he's severely dehydrated. If he doesn't receive continuous medical care for the next 12 hours, he will die." But even as Dr. Hoskins spoke, Rex was attempting to stand again, the IV line tugging at his front leg as he struggled toward the backpack. His determination was so fierce, so heartbreaking, that several hardened emergency responders found themselves wiping away tears. "There has to be another way," Marcus Webb, the helicopter pilot, insisted. "Can't we sedate him and take the medicine?" The moment Marcus approached the backpack, Rex's response was immediate. Despite his critical condition, he managed to place his body protectively over the medical supplies and fix Marcus with a stare that communicated absolute refusal. Rex had been entrusted with this mission by Dr. Emily Chen, and he could not let anyone else take responsibility for Tommy's life. Emergency Coordinator Lisa Park was on 3 different radio channels, simultaneously trying to coordinate a solution. "Denver Children's Hospital. This is Riverside Command. What's Tommy's current condition?" Dr. Stevens' voice crackled through the static. "We just reestablished contact with Miguel Martinez. Tommy's blood sugar is critically high, over 400. He's becoming lethargic and showing signs of diabetic ketoacidosis without insulin." In the next few hours, his voice trailed off, leaving the unspoken truth hanging in the air. Rex seemed to understand with superhuman effort for a dog. In his condition, he stood on shaking legs and picked up the backpack strap. His message was crystal clear. They were wasting time talking while a little boy was dying. Captain Williams made a decision that would either save 2 lives or cost them both. "We're going to honor Rex's mission. If he won't let anyone else carry the medicine, then we transport him and the backpack together." That's suicide, Dr. Hoskins protested the stress of helicopter transport in his condition. And doing nothing is murder. Williams cut her off. That little boy's going to die if we don't act now. Marcus Webb stepped forward, his pilot's training kicking in. I can modify the helicopter to create a mobile veterinary unit. We keep Rex on medical support during the flight, and he can complete his delivery. The next hour was a blur of frantic preparation. Rex was loaded into the helicopter on a specialized medical transport gurney of E-Line, secured monitoring equipment attached, but the backpack never left his side. Dr. Hoskins climbed aboard to provide medical support during the flight, still shaking her head at what she considered a dangerous mistake. As the helicopter lifted off, Rex's tail managed a weak wag. For the first time in 4 days, he was moving toward his destination. Instead of being trapped on that debris island, through the aircraft's windows he could see the flood-damaged landscape below, but his focus remained fixed on the backpack and the mission ahead. The flight to the Martinez cabin was treacherous. The helicopter battled fierce mountain winds and navigating around damaged power lines and debris. Rex remained stable but critical, his vital signs fluctuating.